call your name, could you please say present for the record? Trustee King,
Present.
Treasurer Luna,
Present.
Trustee Rutherford, Vice President McIntyre,
Present.
Trustee Booz,
Present.
Secretary Perkins, and myself present. We have 5 present, 2 absent. For the record, the board will not hear comments from the public. We ask that you state the reason for addressing the board and that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes on matter within the authority of the board and not address individuals by name. The presiding officer of the board shall have the right to limit the number of persons who may address the board on the same subject. Seeing there's no public speaking, I move to the next agenda item. The board would like to know the start for the zero-based budget. At this time, I would like to seek a motion and second to approve action 21.2 Flint Center for it. Oh, hold on, we're going too far ahead here. We need the information about the zero-based budget.
So the Raymond Group has not given us a start date. The board just approved him moving forward with the contract. And so we are waiting on them to give us a start date. They do know that the board wants to start right away, but we have to get that information back from Raymond Group.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
What is being done to contact them?
But we've called and we've talked to them and we've sent back the documentation. So the CFO has already contacted them. They do know that the board wants to start right away. So, I mean, we've already been in contact since the last board meeting.
Like phone calls, emails?
Email, phone call. Yeah. I will make another call tomorrow and then follow up with the board with an update.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Great. Trustee Holly, you want to talk about that?
Board member, in your package is the contract and the purchase agreement for Flint Center for Education Excellence. Please review it.
Madam President,
Yes.
do you know if Ms. Perkins will be in attendance today?
I don't think Mr. Jameson will be attending. He's been here twice. I know, I wasn't for sure he was gonna be here, because we're looking at the contract. And, that's my understanding. He didn't need to be here. We did 2 presentations, and the concern was to move forward, upward or forward. I think, Mr. Jones, we made changes to that contract that we asked.
So what's before you is the purchase for the property. We are still working through MOU, which is the work that the center does. So that was 2 conversations we had. One is about the property, and that's what's before you. The MOU is the memorandum of understanding of what the center is doing to support Flint kids as it pertains to after-school programming, CSDs, and that work. But what's before you is the work that Troon has done with the center as directed by the board to ensure that this agreement for the property is taken care of.
Madam President,
Yes.
may I ask a few questions?
Sure.
Through you to Mr. Jones, could you just explain the work that will be done at the property as far as investments and improvements done by the Flint Center for Educational Excellence?
Yep, so the Flint Center had received some funding, upwards about 3.4 million, somewhere around in there. I could be
Yes.
off a little bit with the numbers. And to acquire, property, to have a facility, to build on, I would say, the cube, for DTM. And they needed to, based on how their funding was structured and the grant is structured, they needed to acquire uh, the property in order to be able to build and use this money. So that's the reason why he's come to us to purchase this property. So as it pertains to what's happening, the plan, as far as we know it, is to build a cube on that property and to add a splash pad on that property to go along with the playground that we currently have there. So that is the plan based on Dr. Jameson's request.
Thank you. So just for my own context, this was an enhancement grant from the state legislature, specifically to the Flint Censure.
Yes,
Okay, so
to my knowledge, yes.
knowing that space, can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Um, I'll do a comparison, right? So we recently received an $8.8 million enhancement grant from the state legislature for this next fiscal year. And because Flint Community Schools was the recipient, we are the only recipient in which to use that money. I believe fiscal year 25, the Flint Center for Educational Excellence also received an enhancement grant because they were the recipient of these dollars, right? So they must use that dollar for what I believe to be improvements towards an existing blighted school property, and it could be a Flint Community School building, it could be a charter school building, but it has to be used specifically for those purposes. I'm completely fine if they're gonna invest $3.5 million to this blighted property for a cube that benefits our students in the neighborhood. I know the dollar price can seem a bit scary, but again, when you compare the dollar that we're selling this blighted property, which in my opinion is negative equity, which need us to maintain it and to make our own improvements, probably north of $1 million at least. Them using that money and selecting us as opposed to charter school, to me, is a win-win. Number one, the students win, neighborhoods win, and we win because we're not spending any money on this. So I'll be supporting this agreement.
I would like to talk about, I hate that he's not here, but.
Speak to the mic.
Oh, is it on? I want board member to look at the page 5 or 7. The right of first refusal. That was one of the questions that we, some of the things and concern that we had. And it talked about if it was purchased within 10 years after closing, what the person will receive back. Did we have the right of refusal? Is it 10, we have the right of refusal? The Board of Education does? Any more questions? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
I am a strong proponent of retaining assets as community assets and with the emphasis on Flint Community School, building the community and having that as part of reinforcing public education and the democratic process. I have not changed my stance on that. However, the political landscape has changed. The federal situation has changed, and also we are still being disinvested in, especially at the federal level, but not so much at the state because of the 8.9 million, which I am grateful for, but I wish it would have been higher. And a little bit sooner as well. I know that some of that was earmarked as Flint Community Schools getting water relief money, and somehow down the road it got diluted and a little bit less than what it was initially earmarked for. But having done work for the last few years on the board and doing outreach with community partners, with the legislature on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, this I think is the way of the future. Now, we did sell a building, or we're in negotiations with Communities First. I think there's, been, I'm not sure what the exact status of that is, and that's a separate conversation. But in addition to us trying to re-energize and repurpose this MOU and contract that we have, this potential one with the Center for Educational Excellence, I think is very strategic, is very smart. And while it would be relinquishing site control and ownership of a particular piece of property, I believe that we have worked really, really hard to forge a very strong partnership with the Flint Center for Community Excellence. And we're not in the space that we once were, even a few years ago, and definitely not with the Crim Foundation and with Youth Quest, which kind of led to the Center for Educational Excellence. So in this situation, this I think is an example of how partnerships should be forged and how work should be done in this particular setting, because we've got to use all of our resources and we've got to pool together. We've got to come together as a community. And I think the Flint Center for Educational Excellence has demonstrated its commitment to our community, to public schools. If we can have another space like this at Durant-Terremont, another cube situation where it involves the neighborhood, it involves, the children, preschool, Head Start, the Flint schools, I'm all for it. And the fact is, I don't really see it as us giving away anything. They're bringing $3.5 million to us, and they have to have site ownership because that's the way our hands are tied. And I think that's unfortunate, but that's not their, that's not through a fault of the Center for Educational Excellence. They're doing the best they can with what they have, just as we are. And I hope to see more relationship building and partnership cooperation like this moving forward.
Thank you. Dr. Jameson just contacted, and he's right. He thought it was another date tomorrow. We did change the date. I assumed that we had got in contact with him, and he's headed their way if we need further questions. But anyone else have any discussion as it
Madam
relates
Chair.
to Trustee Rutherford?
I find this very disgusting that you all would even think about giving away property when the four of you all went to Lansing asking for the state to give us support to tear down the building. To not even consider fair market value is one thing, but then you had a resident coming here that wanted a unit where the price was $1,000 for a resident. When you look at the former farm service center, the same thing happened and we got nothing in return. There's no MOU in place to make sure that Flint Community School is taken care of. And to just have the mitigated gauze to give away a building for $1, you're not benefiting the community. You're taking from the district, because this district has property that we could utilize to help tear down buildings. And for you all to sit here and use a word salad to try to mislead people on giving away a building. Center for Excellence is a partner of Flint Community Schools, not a part of Flint Community Schools. If they apply for the grant and they did not meet the qualifications, they just don't meet the qualifications. But to hear individuals say this is helping the community, no, it's not. This cube, which belongs to Flint Community Schools, this cube that we're in having this meeting belongs to Flint Community Schools. Why would we give away a building that's in very good condition? $1 is giving it away, period. That's just not being good fiduciaries of what we are elected to do. And to just sit up here and let someone coerce you into giving away something that we need. How dare you all go to Lansing and ask for help and you give away a building? Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you, trustee, uh, Perkins, then trustee King, and I will respond.
We went to Lansing because on all of our minds, we're trying to better this community in every way we can. That building sat empty for years and years and years. Why wouldn't we just give it away to somebody who's going to help enhance our community, that neighborhood, the children, especially the children of Flint? You know, we've given away dollar houses in the city. It's ridiculous to think that we're not looking out for the scholars, because we are, for the community, because we are. We went up there because we're tired of the dilapidated, old, outdated buildings just sitting around. They used Northern for a garbage dump. Yes, they did. We took a senator over there, and he led the charge for us to get the money to tear down the schools that are just bringing our neighborhoods down. So I don't have a problem with the Center of Excellence because they are our partners and they're doing a great job with education. So that's what I got to say.
Trustee King?
Yes, thank you. I, I I would say this. When always be mindful of how the governing body, how we make decisions, because we've seen community members over the years contact the board about purchasing property for less than what individuals thought that the property may be worth, and we've denied those requests. And I only say this because the appearance, just thinking about optics here. I understand partnership. I understand that, Flint Center for Educational Excellence has been a great partner for Flint Community Schools. But the appearance, I mean, hearing that they received a substantial amount to invest into a property to, provide further educational excellence, and to come to us, and us to basically to agree to a single dollar price, when others have came, yes, regardless of others have came for, if they didn't have the resources, if they did, we denied them. I would just be mindful of the precedent that we may be potentially setting. Not saying we are, but the precedent we may be setting, because we've seen last board meeting, 2 individuals came requesting to purchase property. And my question, if I was them, if I seen this go through and we give a higher price to them, what's the difference? We can give all kind of differences, but as a community member, it's like, well, I've asked to invest in the property. I have the funds to do it, and we tell them a different one. I just think we go into a rabbit hole where we have to decipher between which one we would do, and based off preferences. I would personally, what I would like, I would love to see first an MOU between the center and Flint Community Schools before a purchase agreement. And I say that because we've seen this before, as other district properties was given away and there was no return back to Flint Community Schools. And I think it'd be advantageous for us to obtain the MOU, knowing that we have a trusting working relationship with Mr. Jamerson and the Flint Center. Hey, we get the MOU, we're able to read it. This is our agreement. Then I honestly wouldn't be, I'd be fine moving forward to seeing how it would specifically benefit Flint Community Schools kids in writing first with the MOU, then go into a purchase agreement, because anyone could change their minds later, not suggesting they will, but anyone could change their minds later. I think it'd be good practice for us to retrieve an MOU to say like, hey, we got this in writing, this is how this would benefit Flint kids, and this would justify a dollar price. But that's just my comments. I just maintain those. Thank you.
I'm sure.
Yes, I'll speak. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm really proud that the board approved of the stewardship policy last year when it came to how we lease and sell property, and I went through it this morning and again this afternoon. I think both in the preamble but also in the policy, we're kind of honoring that policy we passed to do this work. One, two, we talked about community benefits. This vacant building that sits right behind DTM right now is giving no community benefits. With this investment from the Flint Center, there will be benefits to the community. Two, I agree. I mean, if I had it my way, the two individuals who came here last week who asked about those 2 units that are blighted, one I believe on Averill, and then one right across from Zimmerman. I would love to give them properties for $1 because they're on vacant city lots that are probably smaller than this building that will have no future use from the community school. So I'm all in favor of that. $1 to me is fair for them because they're going to put money into it. They reduce some blight. So maybe we can have that conversation again. But for this specific parcel, that's actually a piece of a parcel because it's part of a DTM parcel according to the county, which is right in front of me. I think it's worth it because the community benefit, the investment that we can't afford but they can afford, and 3, it follows our policy we passed. So I'll be supporting this tonight, and I have confidence over the last year that this partnership will continue to grow and benefit our students, the community, and the district. So I'll be supporting this tonight.
Thank you, trustee. Oh, you guys gave a lot to digest. Prior to the new board member coming on, we had a plan. We had over 100 people at the Scott School. We had attorneys working with them, gonna help them. We even took money from them for down payment. When the new board came on, you guys voted to give them their money back. That workshop that we had started ended. And here we are now. But there was a plan. We had worked with over 100 residents. The previous board, we agreed. Some of the property would be to help the community. We're not looking to make a profit off of everything. Keep in mind, the reason that we have 28 buildings, 680 acres of land is from previous workers' taxpayer money. It existed from taxpayer money. We shouldn't be trying to make a profit off of everything that we do. The cube that they're talking about building, why not? I walked over there, the building wasn't even on our list. It's an abandoned building. It's bad enough they pretty much losing the Children's Museum over there. This district is about giving. When we went to Lansing, the 4 of us and you guys, first question they asked, what are you gonna do with some of those buildings? Have you guys decided to let the community use them? Yep. Are you gonna give something away? They giving us for money. They want the property. They're giving us money to tear down buildings. And our commitment to them, yes, we are. It's not about a profit all the time. It's all about building what was stolen and taken away. I'd rather see this community use this money than data centers and everything else coming in and doing, taking it. We are very sharp. I don't need no chastising. We don't need no correction. We all of sound mind, different opinion. To sit in public and ridicule your board members because you're not satisfied with the way things are going. I just think we just need to get past that. I'm going to support this. The instruction that we asked for is also in the purchase agreement. All of this stuff that he asked to do is in his purchase agreement. This is going to be great for DTM. Also, I think Kevin Jones, you can speak on that. to help DGM got a grant for how much was it?
Oh, we received, a grant for about 3.4. That's the 3.4. Yeah, the 3.4 million to help with the HVAC unit.
Yeah,
from-
I-
from the state.
Yeah, so I'm just saying this. Only body gonna come and save us is ourselves. We got 680 acres in line. And we've been working very hard. The two ladies that came, trustee Dillon's, is correct. They put in maybe $1,000 some dollars. We can go back out into them and say, just two buildings. We'll give it to you for $1. One is gonna be a daycare. They need that over there.
Yep.
And that's what you guys want. Hey, let's give them for $1. I don't have no issue with that. Give the two ladies that for $1. We are moving forward. You still got close to 400, 500 acres of land that you still have to work with. We can go back and forth and have an opinion, but we need 5 votes to move this forward. Is there any more comments?
And Madam Chair,
Proceed.
you mentioned why not? I believe, and Mr. Jones, correct me if I'm wrong, sir. You were specific in requesting an MOU.
No.
You stressed the importance of an MOU, correct?
We must have an MOU.
And I'm asking the 5 votes, because you stalled until Perkins got here, because you needed your 5th vote, that you honor what Superintendent Jones is asking, is for an MOU in place so that Flint schools will be taken care of. Now, I'm hearing the community, but I didn't hear the community when the dollar came out. And this was signed by Dr. Janelle Jameson on July 27th, which says to me, he was told, don't worry about it. And it kept being prolonged because you didn't have your 5 votes. And it's just appalling that you all would use word salad to do something that's just totally inappropriate. It doesn't support the students at all. Kettering University is right across the street. That entire neighborhood is beautiful, including that building. If Superintendent Jones saw the need to use that building, we wouldn't have access to it, but because you 5 want to sell it for $1. I believe we should follow the leadership of Superintendent Jones and get a memo of understanding in place prior to approving this, because things happen. As they say, trust but verify, and you all are not verifying that Flint schools will come out on top. We are a part of the community, but over 50% of the students that live in our community refuse to attend Flint community schools because of decisions like this. Put them first, follow the law, follow the rules. Anything under fair market value should have a serious conversation, not backdoor conversations. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Page 5 or 7 talks about the right of first refusal. The board has the power to make decisions. We went through this with the attorney. Everything that was asked is in this purchase agreement. The right to refusal. Flint School has first right. Everyone has an opinion. And unfortunately, what it is what it is. I would invest $1 in a community, knowing it's gonna, property value is gonna go up. It'll add to what's already there. Revitalizing is what we stood on. Now we need to get to the motion. The motion on the floor. I would do a roll call. Is to approve action item 21.2. What's your point?
There is no motion on the floor at the moment. Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. We made a motion. We went into discussion, correct?
Point of order.
We're still in discussion?
We never had a motion. on the
We
floor.
never had a motion. We just, oh, we went straight into discussion.
Yeah, we went into
I would like to seek a motion and second to approve action item 21.2, Flint Center for Education Excellence, DTM Family Resource Center Agreement. I need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion.
Okay. So,
That the Flint,
go ahead.
that the Flint Center for Education Excellence, a TM Family Resource Center Agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah, properly moving second. Is there any more discussions? Seeing no further discussion, the motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion to include the memo of understanding. 'Cause
There's
that's
a
what
motion on the floor.
support.
It can be supported with the discussion. You can vote it up or down. There's a motion on the floor to amend this. She wants to have the MOU.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
did you just support it?
Yes, I did support. Thank
Okay.
you.
I would, to my colleagues, I would support this if we phrase it in a way. I would actually support the purchase agreement contingent upon the MOU. The reason why I would support that is you do both. Purchase agreements still go through, but it requires the MOU to be signed, presented to the board. Here's how we protect the Flint Community Schools kids. You get win-win, in my opinion. You compromise at that point. You ensure an MOU get done. That's a trust but verified piece that you can have. Then you also get the building for $1. Win-win, in my opinion. I would support that amendment. I think that's a good idea to approve the purchase agreement contingent upon the MOU, memorandum of understanding for the building. You get to see what the building usage would be like. You get to see the benefit for Flint kids. You approve that MOU, you get the building for $1. It puts that guardrail in place to make sure we don't repeat the same thing that was done before. I would agree to that.
President,
Go ahead, trustee.
is the MOU, the only thing you all are looking for is protection for the Flint children? Is that what it is?
For me, Madam Chair, yes, just to make sure, to be clear, is how are we benefiting Flint Community Schools kids? Simple as that. If they're already working on it, you have it in place. That gives them more oomph to say, hey, let's get this ratified and signed, the MOU, the same way they came over the MOU for after-school programs. You presented us the MOU for after-school programs, you able to show those? I think that's a win-win in my opinion.
Madam President,
McIntyre.
I'm sorry.
So in general, I think MOUs are useful and helpful, and they help support like a social contract, but they're not legally binding. Like MOUs are
Yes, they are.
MOUs. No, they're not.
Point of
She's speaking.
information. Point of information.
What's your point?
Memorandums of understanding, they are legally binding.
Thank you for your
When they are
comments.
signed and notarized, I have one in my possession, and yes, it is legally
Proceed, Ms.
binding.
Trey.
So
Bad
they are
information
not
is not good.
legally binding. They're not contracts. There's legal precedent that is accompanying them. And it's a tricky legal situation, but they're not legally binding. That's why they're MOUs. The reason why we have the contract that we have now is because the things that we asked for in the MOUs were put into contract form so that they would be there. Now, I also think that having an MOU is just good community building. I think it's good relationship building. I would agree to, having that, but my vote is not contingent on an MOU. Again, because of the political landscape that I mentioned, we are under a tight timeline and budget. It's the way that the federal government is really constricting the funds for public education. They're like, here's some money, but you got to do A, B, C, D, E. Otherwise, we're going to yank the rug out from under your feet.
Point of information.
Proceed,
What,
what's your point?
what federal fundings is Flint Schools waiting on with this?
So they can,
Okay.
I don't.
No, you don't.
So
Cause you're not telling the truth. That's why you don't want.
Melody,
That's per this motion.
only if I give you the floor, proceed.
So I would like to vote for this tonight because I think there's been a lot of foot dragging with this. I mean, I think that there's, I'm not even sure what's going on between the objections with this, because if you're at the table working with these partners, if you've looked at the history of Flint schools and see what's been happening with the property that's been quote unquote given away for $1 and also property that's being sold, we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing apples to oranges. Part of our policy for dealing with abandoned properties and also properties that need help is that we have to have community benefit agreements. We have to take things into consideration, and we also, the person or the entity or the organization that is making a bid for the property has to have a business plan, has to have a prospectus. Because what we've found in the past is that people come and they get a property and they're not able to do what is necessary. They're not able to do the lead remediation, asbestos remediation, and the property reverts back to us. And so this isn't an apples to apples situation. And what I've said about the Flint Center for Educational Excellence, which I have been very, very critical of in the past, and this is a work in progress, a negotiation. This is a partnership. They have stepped up their game. They've stepped up to their game and become better partners because of our conversations, because of the work that we've done over the past couple of years. And so I feel like we really need to move this forward because this is an opportunity for us to get another $3.5 million. Time is of the essence, which is why it's dated the way that it is. There haven't been any backdoor discussions. This has all been, like I said, out in the public. And if you have been paying attention and reading the things that you're supposed to be reading, then you would know this and you would understand what's happening here. And to call this, something other than what it is, which is a community benefit for public education, for our schools, for the kids. I'm really disheartened to see any sort of negativity towards it because I'm very, very critical about relinquishing property and, quote unquote, giving away property. And this is not that.
So I'm not in agreement to support this motion to add the MOU. We are in this, Mr. Jeremiah Johnson is here. And there's a motion on the floor. I'm not in agreement to support this.
To amend the motion.
To amend the motion. So we put a motion out there to amend. Roll call, do we need to support?
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
with Mr. Jameson being here, will he be able to speak to it?
We in the middle of the motion.
We're in discussion. No, we're in discussion.
We're in the middle of the motion about an amendment
To the
motion.
MOU. Yep,
No,
yep.
to the motion.
To the motion, right? But it includes, right? It includes still the center. It still includes the MOU that they're doing. It still includes the purchase agreement that they're
I know what it
requesting.
includes. I'm just,
Yeah,
it has to be germane to the motion.
It's germane to you. I don't have to.
He didn't make the motion. I made it, and I'm not withdrawing it. Well, I'm letting you know.
Yeah, so okay.
Point of order. Trustee Relaford is the one who made the motion and trustee Booz seconded.
And Tori had the floor, right?
No, trustee Relaford asked for the amendment.
Tori had the floor, right?
This is a privilege motion of point of order.
Yeah, I had the floor.
Madam Chair, point of order.
Mr. King had the floor and he recognized them.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, Mr. Jameson, to help out. Yes, I do. I would love to. That'd be great. I got the floor. Just want to make sure I'm clear. We got the purchase agreement.
Yes.
Is it true that you're working on the MOU with the facility, for the facility?
No, not for the facility. And so during my second presentation to the board, the first presentation, there were a number of concerns lifted to how we were going to prioritize DTM students and the use of the facility. In my second presentation, I clarified for the board that the facility will be utilized for the community education and after-school program that's already being operated on the DTM campus. And so the program is already governed by the 5-year MOU that this board approved in 2023 and extends through 2028. That agreement requires that DTM students get first priority for all programming facilitated by Flint Center for Educational Excellence. You may recall in my presentation, I pulled out specific clauses from that MOU and listed the page numbers that those were listed on. Apologies, I don't have my computer with me right now to provide that information. But there were several outstanding items that were not covered in our MOU. Specifically, there was a concern about the use of the facility beyond the Flint Center's proposed use. And working with the board's counsel at Troon and our general counsel at the Flint Center, we negotiated what is referred to in this document as a warranty deed, which essentially says, and I would defer to our counsel on this, but that there are very specific and limited purposes that this building is being sold to be used for. And that if the Flint Center ever facilitates a set of activities that are outside of the board-approved purpose, the board has the ability to reclaim this property from the Flint Center if we do not adjust that activity within 90 days.
And where, that's in this purchase agreement?
It's in the
It's number 9.
warranty deed. Give me one moment.
It's number 9, page
It's
3 of 7.
It's listed as Exhibit B. Specifically, one moment. So it speaks to the Flint Community Schools, if you're on Exhibit B, conveying the property to the Flint Center for Educational Excellence. It says that it's being conveyed for what is described as community center purposes. It further describes community center purposes to be the grantees or the Flint Center's charitable and educational mission, including early childhood education, after-school programming, community education, parent and family support programming, ecosystem leadership, such as our community council that the superintendent participates on, other educational, youth, family, and social services, recreational, and civic programming and services. It follows by saying, if the property ceases entirely to be used for community center purposes, and the grantee, the Flint Center, fails to cure such cessation within 90 days after written notice from Flint Community Schools, then Flint Community Schools shall have the right at its option to terminate the estate hereby conveyed and to re-enter and repossess the property.
Okay, thank you. So what I heard you say, there is no MOU for the current property in motion.
There is an active MOU for the proposed programming that is being proposed for this
And
property
the active MOU is the one that I helped you approve
in 2023.
2022.
Which covers all program activity services on the DTM campus, including the work that our CSD at DTM does at EduCare, right, to build kindergarten transitions. All of that is covered under our MOU. This will be an additional service on the campus, specifically services listed in this warranty deed, community ed, after school, early childhood, parent and family support, are pulled directly from our MOU in terms of the scope of services the district has already provided, has already approved for the Flint Center to provide on the campus.
Okay, and we should be revisiting this MOU in 2028.
So we will likely bring it in 2027 to
Okay.
ensure that we don't have a disruption, that when we start the 2028 school year,
Cool.
we've already approved it and be able to
Okay.
move forward.
Thank you for the clarification, sir.
Absolutely.
Madam
And
Chair? So in layman's terms, not legal terms, there already exists an MOU both for the programming and the property, which is a part of DTM right now, the way I understand it.
The existing MOU is for the program. The addition of the warranty deed will
Yep.
cover the property.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, it's in there twice. So the warranty deed is like Exhibit B, but then it talks about it again in the purchase agreement.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so I
refers
looked
to
at-
it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
thank
Is the
you.
warranty, yeah.
Madam Chair.
The warranty deed secures the right of reentry that Flint Community Schools would maintain after purchase.
Yeah, so it's a
But in
protection for us,
order-
basically.
Right. In terms of
Thank
where the legal protection exists, it exists within the purchase agreement.
Mhm.
And there's really no crossover to the MOU. The right is defined in the purchase agreement and it's maintained through the warranty.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Attorney, I didn't get your name. What's your name?
Bryce Rucker.
Bryce who?
Bryce Rucker. I'm the Chief
Rucker.
Operating
are
Officer
you,
and General
sir?
Counsel at the Flint Center.
I think what I'm hearing is the MOU that's in place is for programming
Correct.
in buildings that are owned by Flint Community Schools. See, my difference in this is the building would no longer be owned by Flint Community Schools. And so therefore, I would like a MOU to make sure that Flint Community Schools benefits from this. And my reason is, in the past, we have donated, given away buildings, and we have no access. We have not benefited one bit. So for me, I trust you, but I want to verify that Flint schools will be taken care of, not just DTM students, but all students that attend Flint Community Schools and Flint Community School staff. That's what's been missing in the past, to where we're able to give back, but we no longer benefit from the property. So that's why the MOU is important to me. And also Mr. Jones I had a conversation and he shared the importance of an MOU. I don't know, you used a term, Mr. Jones. Would you help me with that term about when we? you
Point
met-
of information. Point of
No, I'm not.
information, is the trustee aware that this is only for a portion of the property that we're talking about, of the whole project? This is like this is a complex
have the
property
floor.
transfer,
What is her point of order?
and
Should have,
that it's, that it's just a portion of the property. And so we have the MOU that
That's-
covers the programs in the same way that it would cover the programs for our buildings.
that's not what, Madam Chair, that's not a point of order. I just asked for a term that you shared with
You
me.
gotta help me remember that.
About, how we know, you've used what's that word you used? Where we were able to have access, because now we no longer have access. It'll come to me. But Attorney, my ask of you is to make sure Flint Community School is taken care of as it relates to selling this property. I'm not in agreement for selling anything less than fair market value. I'm just gonna be totally honest with you. And especially when you're dealing with public funds and public property. So for me to soften the blow to the public, we should have something in place as a board to make sure that the district is taken care of, which is a memo of understanding, making sure that Flint Community School District staff would be able to utilize that building. It's not a dilapidated building at all, by no means, and it will no longer belong to Flint Community Schools. That's the difference to me in the MOU that's in place, because that's dealing with the programs. But if we had an MOU as it relates to the building, that would help me, and that's my ask.
If I may respond, I agree 100% in terms of the need to protect Flint Community Schools. I would just offer that our MOU is not exclusive to a building. It's exclusive to a community. And so when we take our students on field trips, it's still covered under our MOU, even though it doesn't happen at the building. Or when we take our four-year or kindergartners from DTM down to educator to do kindergarten transition activities. We still see that as a part of the DTM program. Just like the cube here, being here on the Brownell Homes campus, we didn't need to change our MOU to figure out how do we activate this space. We knew that we had an agreement that covered 2 full-time community school directors, 2 expanded learning coordinators, and full community education teams on this campus. And our agreement with this district, with many board members in the room, was to deploy those teams to activate this space. We're not proposing something novel here. We're proposing an expansion of a strategy that we worked arm in arm with community to develop, but we believe that more community members can also benefit from this. Absolutely, it's a public asset. We are a publicly supported organization. We're a not-for-profit, tax exempt. We are also facilitating this transaction with public dollars. And so the benefit is still for the public. And if that benefit ever ceases, and we cannot cure that within 90 days, Flint Community Schools has the ability to recapture that building. I agree it's not in bad shape, but we're prepared to put $3.5 million into the building. And we're saying if we can't get it right in 90 days of the board letting us know that, you'll get your dollar back with $3.5 million of investment on top of it. That's how confident we are, and our board is, that we can keep our promises to this district. So I appreciate the ability to respond, but I just wanted to provide those couple of clarifications.
Touch it in. Yeah, I think my last comment for the amended motion, and then we'll go back to the original. But could you just clarify for the board's purposes, and you don't have to give the exact parcel numbers, but I'm looking at the parcel number right now, right? So my colleagues, there's 2 parcels here, right? There's the DTM property, which includes this building directly behind it. Then there's a property adjacent, I think that's the east of it, which is an autism center. We're talking about the property directly behind the DTM building, not the autism center. Just for clarification purposes, they're 2 separate parcels.
Correct. So the DTM campus is parceled into 3 parcels, and we're recommending a 4. Flint Community Schools owns the DTM campus, which goes from obviously the DTM building, includes the proposed Family Resource Center, and extends just beyond the playground down the hill. The Community Foundation of Greater Flint owns everything from down the hill to Educator's parking lot on Gladwin, and Easter Seals owns the center that Trustee Luna is referring to. We were very clear when Roe came out to do a survey of the property with Clark Construction, who was also planning the playground, that this property should not in any way interfere with the proposed playground or any potential future development that may abut the playground. So this is specifically from about 100 feet off of the wall of the building to what is right now a bunch of brush backing onto Cottage Grove Avenue. Once we're able to acquire this property, we'll begin our discussions with the land bank on acquiring 2 properties on Cottage Grove to provide an easement from Cottage Grove to this property so that access is not required through the DTM campus. The land bank is open to a lease for those properties to us now, but they will only sell adjacent properties to adjacent property owners. And so until we have taken possession or at least have a purchase agreement in place for this property, we cannot acquire the 2 residential properties that will allow for us to create an entrance and exit on the Cottage Grove so as not to disrupt DTM's operations.
And then I'll finish my comments now. I'm done for this motion. So looking at the map and the different parcel numbers, I'm very familiar with that corner, Cottage Grove and West Fifth Avenue. It's all vacant property besides a few houses here or there. A lot of kids use it to like bike and do stuff right there. Having that center to me is going to benefit those kids and gives them direct access to
Yes.
do stuff in that center. And those are mostly Flint Community School students, but just
Yes.
knowing the area really well and walking it.
It's one of the only neighborhoods, you know, we worked through this with with our community council. When you look at where kids go to school, it's one of the only neighborhoods where the kids live in the neighborhood
Yes.
and go to school in the neighborhood, very much like Brownell Homes. It's the same unique opportunity, but the window is closing in terms of our eligibility for the funding.
Yeah, I remember reading that MOU in entirety because it was at risk of not being approved.
Yep.
With that being said, thank you for giving that context and clarification. I would ask that information in the future to help connect the dot. That was a dot that was missing is what that benefit is. So thank you.
Understood.
There's a vote on the amendment. To amend the motion, but to amend the motion to add.
There's a second.
Linda, second.
She seconded. Yes.
Trustee Booth. Yes. So vote is on the floor. The vote is to amend the roll call. No. Trustee Booth.
No.
Trustee Perkins.
No.
Trustee Lynn.
No.
Trustee King.
No.
Trustee Perkins.
Yes.
And myself, no. Motion fails. Motion fails. Now go to the motion to approve. Now, the motion to approve action item 21.2. Okay, please. Second. And there's been discussion. And there's been discussion. Roll call vote. Seeing no further discussion, the motion to approve action item 21.2. Center for Education Excellence, DTM Family Resource Center Agreement conducted by roll call vote. Trustee Perkins,
Yes.
Trustee Booth,
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre,
Yes.
Treasurer Luna,
Yes.
Trustee King,
Yes.
Trustee Rutherford,
No.
and myself, yes. Motion passes. 6 yes, 1 no. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're looking forward to working with the board.
Thank you. Thank you
Appreciate
both.
it. Thank you.
And now turn the floor over to Vice President McIntyre.
So continuing with the agenda, I seek,
I have to read it. What page in the package? This right here. Okay. Okay.
all right. So the Flint Community Schools requested the Allen Group form an independent fact-finding investigation against, or an investigation into statements made by a board member, trustee Melody Relaford, at a board meeting on February 11th, 2026. We've had a legal opinion providing whether that statement was a violation of law or policy, and to give us recommendations about action that the board should and needs to take in order to be fiscally responsible for any slanderous or libel statements made potentially at the board. As such, we had the Allen Law Firm do an investigation. The results of the investigation were presented to the board on a special board meeting on February 11th. Or firm investigated the statement that was made and the circumstances surrounding those statements and came to a conclusion. So based on that investigation, the Allen Law Group found that there was no evidence presented to substantiate the statement that President McNeil or any other board member is receiving kickbacks or any other form of inappropriate benefit from any vendor contract or relationship, including Concentric. So that contradicts and is contrary to the statement made by Trustee Relaford. There's a summary of the investigation, the facts, the circumstances, the interviews, and its implication for relevant law and policy. And not only did Allen Law Firm give investigative findings, analysis, and opinions, but we also had a legal opinion from our own counsel through True Law. So on June 29th, 2026, we received a legal opinion about the Allen Law Group's fact-finding report and the next steps. And on recommendation from our legal, from this legal opinion and our legal team, it is recommended that we have three steps that we can make. The first is to censure the individual board member, Melody Relaford, for making the false statements that were proven to be unsubstantiated and incorrect. To make a public statement, depending on the content of such statement, which is what we are doing now. And also the third recommendation was to recommend additional board training to prevent this type of comment from being made in the future. It is council's recommendation that that would probably not be advisable considering the behavior of Trustee Relaford, that it probably wouldn't do anything. And so we've had a request by the affected party, Dr. Joyce Ellis McNeil, to accept an apology, which has been refused. And so moving forward, I seek a motion to censure and admonish board member Trustee Relaford for the statements made on February 11th, 2026 in the meeting that were proven to be patently false and inexcusable and indefensible. So I seek a resolution to censure Trustee Relaford. Okay.
Support.
What's the censure going to do? Tell me.
Here's the resolution. I'm
On
seeking.
page 20.
Is there a motion to?
I just said support. I thought you was making the motion.
I'm seeking the motion, so it needs to be read. I'm seeking the motion.
She's saying it wasn't made.
I support the motion.
Well, it hasn't been made yet.
So
I'm-
what she's asking you guys to do, could you explain it? What they need to do, this is
To read a resolution to censure and admonish board member Trustee Relaford.
So we would have to read that, and it's got an A there, trustee or what?
What you read, what page?
20 at the top. Is that what you?
Yeah.
Do you want to read that? That's what she asked.
So I'm seeking a resolution to censure and admonish board member Trustee Relaford. And the motion I'm seeking is that at a meeting on February 11th, the Board of Education was held in the District of Genesee County on the day of February 11th, 2026. So whereas Melody Relaford is a trustee of the Flint Community School Board of Education.
Point of information. Did I hear a motion? I didn't hear a motion. No one has
We're
I'm
said,
reading
trying
the
to
motion
underst-
that I'm seeking.
no, you
I'm
gotta
reading
make the motion.
I'm reading the motion that I am seeking. I am seeking this motion. Whereas Melody
Bless your
Relaford
heart.
is a trustee of the Flint Community School Board of Education, and whereas the Board of Education has promulgated Board Policy 0144.2D and K, wherein it states in part, encourage the free expression of opinion by all board members and seek systematic communication between the board and students, staff, and all elements of the community. And K, remember always that their first and greatest concern must be for the educational welfare of the students attending the public schools. Now therefore be it resolved that the board concludes that trustee Melody Relaford either knew or should have known that it was unethical and violated board policy 0144.2D and K to make an inappropriate comment and direct it at board president, Dr. Joyce Ellis McNeil. 2, the board also finds that trustee Melody Relaford either knew or should have known that it was inappropriate for her to make the kickback comment towards board president, Dr. Ellis McNeil, and her comment violated board policy 0144.2D and K. And 3, the Board of Education hereby censures Ms. Relaford for her aforementioned actions and directs that she forthwith comply with the district's board policies and in the course of all of her future activities on behalf of the Board of Education and Flint Community Schools. And 4, all resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution be and the same are hereby rescinded. I'm seeking this motion.
Let's vote yes or no.
No, I'm seeking the motion.
I'm seeking a motion to censure Melody Relaford for making inappropriate statements toward the president that were unfounded by our attorneys.
Support.
So resolution has been made and it's been supported. Is there any discussion?
Did you say that all of our attorneys thoroughly investigated or in a third party or?
So the parties that did the investigation were the Allen Law Group.
Mhm.
I know it's kind of hard to remember because this was so long ago and we tried to follow due process and it takes the wheels of justice kind of grind very, very slowly. Sometimes we wanted to make sure that everything was taken care of, especially because of the egregious nature of the comments that were made and the potential for legal action either by a board member or by an actual vendor. So we had to make sure that the board and the district was covered against any type of legal action, financial or otherwise. And the Allen Law Group did their investigation, did a thorough investigation, and to which we had to pay a pretty good sum of money. Then we had a legal opinion from Troon Law based on the results of the investigation.
Okay.
Trustee
Yeah,
McNeil?
since all of this concerns me and my reputation and my confrontment by some of our funders, even the top funders that's helping us, want to know what are we going to do about this. This is a felony, a crime to take money, kickbacks. My reputation is on the line. It's not funny. I have integrity. And I would like for the board to treat this situation like you treat everything else. I paid a big price for that statement, and I'm still paying a price for that statement. Every decision I make, I'm questioning about this. I don't even know what else to say. We have to watch what come out our mouth.
Support, I need to
I
say,
think trustee Booz.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Oh, you're good.
I'm good.
so what will the censure include?
It's a censure, which means that we're publicly admonishing a board member.
I understand that.
You
I-
wanna know
I-
how long? and all
How
that?
long, what
Balance of the
are
term.
her limits? Does she, the actions of the censure?
Well, the censure itself is a one-time thing that is done. Now, what we do as a result of the censure would be a different motion. So we can take action to limit travel, to limit the chairing of positions. But the censorship itself, it's pretty much the most drastic thing you can do in regard to a board member violating policy or the law, pretty much. Because of the way, because this is a public school, because the only thing that we're required to do in order to be elected servants and trustees of the Board of Education is to A, live in Flint, and B, get elected. There's really nothing that can remove a board member unless they commit a felony. And even then, it's a very complicated process. So only the governor can remove a board member or take the steps necessary to remove a board member from their seat. So this is pretty much the most drastic thing we can do to a board member, even with all of their egregious and outrageous behavior. And like I said, if we vote to take a censure, then we can make a motion to restrict committee work and or travel. Are there any other comments? Okay, so we're voting to censure trustee Relaford. I'll now conduct a roll call vote. As I say your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Booz?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre is a yes. Trustee Relaford?
No.
Trustee King?
No.
Treasurer Luna?
Yes.
And President McNeil?
Yes.
A motion passes by a vote of 5 yes to 2 no. Is there,
Just censor, what's the censure? What else from that? We voted to censor.
so now it's it's the pleasure of the board to take action on the censure. What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam President,
Yes, Madam President.
Vice President. I do recommend, we done went through this once before. We spend thousands of dollars. Nothing has changed. Here we are again with the same individual, more legal fee. I think the recommendation would be that trustee Relaford be censored for the balance of her term, not to sit on any chair position for the balance of her term. I don't recommend, I think we should let her continue to travel, get the much training that she can get. And that is about as lean as I can go with this board member. How many times do we have to keep paying legal fee, investigation fee when someone does these heinous acts because they're not having their way? I'm requesting that the board censor Melanie Reffler for the balance of this term with the ability
to take a MASB training or NSBA, hopefully certification, and she can travel. But for the balance of her term on this board, these type of remarks and this is not the place for a chairperson or person to hold a chair. That's my recommendation.
Anyone else?
I'd like to know how much money we've spent on the censures.
Or maybe the executive administration would know.
Ms. Templeton, do you know?
Invoices, have you gotten invoices?
Superintendent?
We would have to know how much money we spent on this particular investigation or third-party investigations on the censures. That's something that you did as a board, but the investigation probably is what you're asking.
Yes.
How much money
Legal
have we
fees.
spent on legal fees
Legal fees
for these type of investigations?
for this.
Well,
individual.
actually, I mean, we could limit it to how much we have spent on legal fees for investigating this particular board member, this particular individual. We don't even have to go as far as the rest of the board because there weren't any.
I would like us to be able to get back to you on that.
How much
because
we
would
spent
need
so
to,
far?
If that's the request of the board.
Yeah, Madam Chair, point of order. There's been no second for the motion.
Point of order, there's no motion on the floor. We're still in
I
discussion.
thought you made a motion and was waiting for a second.
I think we going, from my understanding, let her, this is her.
No,
she's
there's
doing
been
it.
no motion
Okay.
on the floor. She didn't, she said, what is the pleasure? She didn't make a motion.
Can I get the floor?
Trustee King, do you have a?
Yeah, I would say, the action has been taken, to censure the member. I think we should move on to the consolidated application and grants workshop. Because previously, I would encourage, last censure that we did, it included the action taken, like what would be, repercussions or the removals of privileges, and it's not in here. And I would ask that we move, if you want to circle back down later, but I would move to the consolidated application and grants workshop. I think that's a good portion of time to spend some discussion on is the
Are you-
finance piece.
Point of information.
Oh, what's the point?
What is he, going from, what we doing here? You're saying we're going to the workshop?
No, that's my request. I mean, there's no motion on the floor now. But the
Oh,
next agenda item
okay.
here is, go to C.
Madam President, I make a motion on the floor that we accept the censure of trustee Miller Refford under the terms and conditions that I mentioned. The
So-
balance of the terms, et cetera.
For the balance of the elected term, removing from holding a chair position and no travel restrictions.
No travel restriction or training. I think they need it.
Okay, so the motion is on the floor. Is there a second?
I second.
It's been seconded by trustee Booz. Now we're open for discussion. Does anyone have any comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Yes,
I'll just keep-
trustee.
I'll make one comment. So our attorneys and also the third party, recommended we do the censure. I think that's what we just did, and I voted for it and I supported it. But I do want us to just look into precedents. So I believe a couple years ago, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't admonish Vice President McIntyre for some comments that were allegedly made against Trustee King. And at that time, we were gonna vote to remove her from her position, but I believe Trustee Relaford said, you know what, you've done enough, let's move on. I just say from the last couple of years, observing Trustee Relaford when it came to her role on the HR committee, there's been a lot of growth in how she's handled that role, both as a committee member and committee chair. I think she's been very valuable with how she's worked with Ms. Montgomery in advancing a lot of what we've done. specifically last week when we talked about these new positions that came in the personal recommendations. I would just say to my colleagues, consider maybe not doing this right now, or even not even doing it at all. I think we've made our voice clear to the public and to our colleague. And I think doing this sets a bad precedent for future members of how we handle ourselves. I think the censure was pertinent and relevant, and that's why I supported it. I just think it's a rabbit hole that we shouldn't go down, but I'll end there. Those are my thoughts.
I believe trustee King is next and then President McNeil.
Yeah, similar sentiments as my colleague trustee Luna mentioned. I would also, I think we essentially did approve the resolution to censure. So that's done. What I hear my colleagues seeking to do is to add a portion to remove privileges. And I think to say that I didn't interrupt anymore. To say to remove it, I mean to not have a person in position for the remainder of their term, I think is a little I think that's going overboard in my opinion, because the last time we went for the remainder of the year, we went through a year. To say the remainder of one's term, and when some of us may not be on the board for the following year, I think that's just, I don't think that we should decide future years. I think we maintain that right later, but I don't support that motion for the remainder of a person's full term, because they still are elected trustees. There's growth, there's opportunities. I don't support that motion.
President McNeil. I hear my colleagues. We censored trustee Rutherford. She didn't do the whole year. I came to the board and asked you guys to release her from that whole censure. Some board members disagree because they said she'll do it again. We can't have respect of person. If it was me sitting in that seat, the anger and hatred towards me, it would have been censored. I'm asking my colleagues, how much money do you guys want to continue to spend in an uncontrollable behavior? We have spent tons of money. I'm asking my board members support for this, and I think it's somewhere in your resolution. It talks about, we done tried everything, training, we done went everywhere. I'm saying is no, she can continue to come to the board, she have her vote. But if you're gonna be in a chair position, as me as the president, I have done great work. I have worked and moved the district. My role as the president has been really, according to other people, outstanding. If it was me, you wouldn't have gave a thought. In respect to this board, in respect to the public, in respect to defenders, that I sit here in this seat, I have not made any attempt to get money from the mobs, concentric, educational excellence, none of these people. And for to sit here and take this as a little slap on the wrist is an insult. I just say we move for the motion to accept my request because it's me that we are dealing with. She refused to apologize. She said she never will. So I done made my statement, and Vice President McIntyre, we can move forward, up or down.
Madam Chair,
Because we do have to get into this workshop.
Madam Chair,
Trustee Rutherford.
I never said that woman's name. She said her name. Now, I have endured every form of hostility from that end of the table, from Joyce, Laura, Linda, and Claudia.
Point of order.
I'm talking.
Point
I
of
didn't interrupt
order,
anyone else.
Point of
What
point
is
of
your
order, are you aware that you're not supposed to call out individual board
Well,
members by
you just
name
sat
in
up here
such
and
a
called me
manner?
everything but my name. I would kindly ask you to refrain from interrupting me. I have been bullied. I have been alienated on everything. I can't ask a question without being interrupted. I am called everything but Melody. And the classy woman that I am, I give all four of y'all passes every time. So when you have an individual that has a hand in everything, during that meeting, I just asked to talk about what we currently had in place, and I was cut off. Had I not been cut off, I would have referred to the January 26th article that held this organization negatively. We don't need any negativity in this district at all. You had a consultant that was terminated for confidentiality issues, turned around and sued the school district. It's just some things this district does not need. So for an individual to come out and say their name, I don't know what to tell them. Now, had I said that individual name, one thing, I'm not a coward. I don't throw a rock and hide my hand. I have my own mind. I speak truth to power. I don't turn my back on my family members. I don't do that. I don't allow somebody to bully my family members, especially my child. I would never let anyone disrespect my child or me as a woman. So whatever you all decide to do, I don't have a problem with it. I know who I am and I know whose I am. I sleep very well at night. Very well. So whatever you all decide to do, please know Melody Latrice Rutherford, Trustee Rutherford, is gonna be right here in the morning doing what I've been elected to do. Speak truth to power. And if you have a problem with me speaking truth to power, have a seat. Because I'm gonna keep doing it. Thank you.
Trustee Perkins?
I want to say this. I don't bully anybody. I sit and I listen and I make my own decisions, not what somebody else thinks I should say or do. I think I'm the oldest one at this table. And I don't have a problem speaking truth to power. But I'm going to say this. In the past, you said, I want this on record, and we all heard it. So there was an investigation done, and it was proven you were wrong. Therefore, I voted my conscience. So I'm going to leave that right there.
I have to say something about this. Now, Melanie, when have I bullied you? I never bullied you. I have spoke to you and you wouldn't even speak back. A lot of times I have called you and you didn't return the calls. I never have bullied you. I always had respect for you. I have respect for everybody on this board. And you never hear me say anything negative about any of you. I try to support each and every one of these, one of us, each and every one of the board members, and you have connections, and we all have connections. Sometimes we get along better with certain individuals, and that's okay. But I was here for you, and you didn't even realize it. So, and in terms of you lumping me up in a disrespectful way, I have a lot of respect for you. You're a very intelligent woman. You just have to redirect your energy.
And then I'd just like to conclude by saying that Trustee Rutherford's statements in response to the censorship is exactly proving the result of the investigation and the legal opinion from Troon Law Firm. It was their opinion that training wouldn't help this individual any longer because any training that they had clearly hadn't done any good in the past. So I think that it is magnanimous of Dr. McNeil to only want to censure them for the balance of their elected term and to remove them from holding chair, which in my opinion, I feel they're clearly uh, unfit to hold. I think that that Dr. McNeil is being very, very generous, given that Attorney Gardner said that training wouldn't have any effect on this board member, that they're actually allowing them to continue to get training and to travel. I would just limit that. I would restrict that as well, like we did the last time that they were censured, when they begged to be let back in and said that they were sorry and that they would behave themselves.
Point of information, that is not
And
accurate. Point of information.
what is your point
That is
of
not
information?
accurate.
What is your question?
The question is, when did I beg to be forgiven or whatever you just said? When?
So in my opinion, I
Exactly.
think that
Watch
we
your mouth.
should vote for, I will take Dr. McNeil's recommendation and, which I think is very, very lenient and very generous. But I think that we should censure them for the balance of the term and remove them from holding chair, because we have important work of the district to move forward. And this is just stuff and nonsense. We have to focus on the scholars. We have to focus on our buildings, on the new school year that's coming up. And this is absolutely ridiculous. And it keeps happening over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm tired of it. I'm just done. So I'll call for the vote.
Point of information. This motion is to restrict Trustee Rutherford to hold a chair position for the balance of the term, not, you censored her already.
Right, but to censure her for the balance of the elected term and to remove her from holding the chair. But there's not,
You already censored her tonight.
right.
I just want to make sure I don't understand the motion exactly.
Point of information. Would you mind? In this particular censure, when we censure a person, I'm responding. I'm sorry, I didn't get the floor. Sorry.
What's your point of information?
I-
Are you allowing
Yeah,
her
I
to
am.
respond? Okay,
I am.
thank you.
This is we censor her, but with your censor come with stipulation. To censor me what? Nothing. With this censor, we're saying this censor will require her or any trustee the balance of her term be removed from holding any chair position. That's what the censure is. We agreed that she need to be censored. Now, what are we censoring her from? I'm saying we censor her from holding the chair position and remove, from any chair position for the balance of term. I'm also agreed in that before we took away traveling and all of that, I'm not taking that. I'm saying, but well, yeah, maybe so, but I'm requesting that just Melinda Redford be censored, removed from holding chair position for the balance of her term. And we'll see how that works. If something else come up, then we got to figure something else out. We all work hard. We all have done good jobs. In any position we have got, we have all done good. But one thing we have not done is public due on several occasions. We have a pending, we had to do this before. And we still have a pending litigation that might come from the same board member. What I'm saying is, when does the madness stop? This is not about, oh, this is my friend, I'm gonna save face. It is about this board, we're working on handbooks and policy. And this gonna be in your handbook. You just cannot sit here and be on these different boards, exposure hearing, and doing the same behavior that we expel kids from. We done spend a lot of time. We got to get to this next workshop. Either you support my request for this censure. That's all I'm asking. And let's move forward. We need 4 votes to move forward. Let's go.
excuse me, trustee Luna, you had the floor. Are you, are you done with the floor? Okay. Uh, Trustee King, do you have,
Yeah,
you'd
so
like the, okay.
can you restate that motion?
To censure for the balance of the elected term and remove trustee Rutherford from having the chair.
Okay. The only challenge is, right, is when that first piece, we did the censorship piece. I think that's what, like, the logistical piece of it is, you already did censure, you put, hey, making a motion to remove remove trustee Rutherford from position for X amount for the expired term. You putting both of those in there implies it's double censure, essentially. Because the motion
You wanna
says
make a
what?
friendly amendment?
Because she's been censured, I mean, you just did it. It's just logistical reasons.
Madam President, yeah, you done?
Point of information, what logistical obstacles would there be?
Oh, yeah, the first portion of that motion.
And my question was what,
So the previous agenda item that you just approved?
are you
The
aware that
censure?
it's for a period of time as opposed
yeah, I
to
hear
just
you.
a general censure? So
I hear you 100%.
there's not
Point of
really a
information. I
problem?
Point of information. I think what they're trying to use the word game. You used when you
No
went
word
in,
game.
you said to censure. We was getting a
Point of
motion
order.
to censure the
Where's
person.
the question?
I was just, I had to go. I did a
No, I
point.
had the floor originally, right?
But I did a
Correct.
And
point.
she said a point of information.
Yep, so
And there was no
trustee,
question.
trustee King has the.
Oh,
floor.
okay,
I did
all
a
right,
point
I'm
of
sorry.
information. Apologies.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so my point with, there's no word game here. I just want logistically how it's supposed to be is, are you saying is making a motion to remove the individual from holding office for the remainder of term. Like from a chair position, not double censure. That's all. I'm just making sure it's clear with minutes and how that looks like, because you just made a censure.
Would you like to make a friendly amendment
A friendly amendment to what I
to
just
your
said.
motion?
My motion was that we censor trustee Rutherford for the balance of the term and remove, which meant
Point of
removing.
information, are you aware that we've already censured
So
trustee
that is what
Rutherford?
he's trying to say.
Right.
As part of this censure, of it, I'm requesting.
So point of information, are you just adding a specific time period?
Yes.
Any other questions?
So
Comments?
for that motion, we add in this particular time period. You have to add something. And we need to move forward.
Okay, I'm gonna take a roll call vote.
and state
Everyone
it.
in favor of censuring trustee Rutherford for the balance of her elected term and removing her from holding a chair position on the board. As I will be conducted by roll call vote, as I call your name, please say yes or no to approve this motion. Secretary Perkins,
Yes.
trustee Booz,
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre, yes. Trustee Rutherford?
No.
Trustee King?
No.
Trustee Luna?
No.
And President McNeil?
Yes.
So it passes by a vote of 5 to 2 noes. See,
4-3.
I apologize. 4 to 3, thank you, Pam. Seeing no further business of the board, I declare the special board meeting adjourned?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I now turn the floor back over to President McNeil. There we go.
Board member, in your package, the reason why we are having this particular meeting as it relates to the consolidated application and grant workshop. You have the reason why we are doing this. Trustee Perkins, I would like for you to read it for the people, for our audience, why we're doing this workshop as a board and our responsibility, so the public can know.
Okay, the subject is the why reason for consolidated application grants workshop. school board participation in title program and budget workshops is essential because board members are ultimately accountable for how district funds are planned, approved, and monitored. Fiduciary oversight workshops help members understand revenue sources, spending priorities, restrictions, and long-term financial obligations before voting. Federal compliance, the title funds, such as Title 1, 2, 3, and 4, have specifically eligibility, allowance, allowable use, documentation, and supplement, not supplant requirements. Informed oversight reduces compliance and audit risks. Alignment with students' needs. Board members can verify that finding decisions address achievement gaps, support disadvantaged students, and align with district improvement goals. Better decision-making workshop provide time to examine assumptions, ask detailed questions, evaluate alternatives, and understand trade-offs outside the pressure of a formal voting meeting. Transparency and public trust. Visible engagement demonstrates that the board is carefully reviewing how taxpayer and grant funds are used. Shared governance. Participation keeps board members, administrators, and program leaders working from the same information and prevents misunderstandings during budget approval. Monitoring results. Understanding the original funding plan enables members to assess later whether programs delivered the intended academic and operational outcomes. This workshop enables the board to move beyond merely approving expenditures and provide informed, compliant, equitable, and strategic oversight of district resources.
Thank you, trustee Perkins. Superintendent Jones, I want you to make it be clear, and board members, this is not to say that Superintendent Jones, we tell him how to use the money. What this workshop helps us to do is understand how it's used. We're not here to say we dictate how these funds are used. This is a process that we did in the past, that he has the right, but we have to know how these funds are being used. And we're gonna end up seeing how this workshop is gonna tie into your job analysis. And the whole purpose of this whole money situation is the greater outcome of our students. So we can give us an idea when we're looking at certain things and we saying that, hey, we're spending this much money on this here program, and the kids' math is still 0%. This is an opportunity where you get with your the superintendent and we can have those conversation. Hey, this program is just not working. Can we use something else? It's just understood, Superintendent Jones.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think it's help us because we all got different ideas about how this operation works. And so I'm trying to get us back to the point when auditor comes and we're approving budget, you know what you're approving. You'll have a job analysis to see that it lines up with your title, and we can be more informed than be misinformed. And it talks about that in some of your um, auditing findings. It is up to the board to be responsible and not tie up time, even on the administration. If you know how this process works and they're giving you the data, it is easy for us to prove when we go. Right now, we just approving this consolidated, hit the button. So hopefully, it doesn't take long. Might not get through this tonight, but to give us an idea how we looking at funds. Some of us talks about the different titles. You want to know, and you have a right to know because you sit here. So, being said, out of that, Trustee Lona, we can start the workshop. Bringing the team for who you have doing this, Trustee.
Yeah,
Superintendent Jones.
So, Dr. Coleman and Ms. Templeton, if you could come and talk through the process of the consolidated application, and go through what you all have prepared for the Board of Education.
And Superintendent Jones, because we had such a long day, if we see, what you think the
Yeah,
cutoff time should be?
Well, I'll do this. So let's allow the administration to complete their presentation. If you have questions throughout the meeting, just please write them down, and we'll go through 2 rounds, 1 question per round per trustee. And then if you have more than 2 questions, because we'll do 2 rounds, then please send them in writing to Mr. Jones if we can get those answered digitally.
Trustee
Does that make sense?
Okay, so do you want to have a cutoff time? Because it seems like it's a lot. They've been gone all day. So if we don't get through all of this, if we do a part 2, I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean, we can always add this to the next agenda. I mean, I'd defer to Mr. Jones and his team.
Yeah.
What makes the most
They've been
sense?
gone all
Mr.
day.
Chair.
It is up to the board what we do.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
go ahead.
Yeah, I would entertain a 45-minute presentation, a conversation, and with the anticipation of a part 2, because these documents were not
I can appreciate
inside
that.
of board book, and I believe these should have been presented earlier to allow for digestion and we could have come prepared with more questions and
Yeah.
understanding. So I would entertain the full presentation with the anticipation of a second one to go through in depth if needed after the 45 minutes.
So what time is it?
So I seek a motion to conclude the presentation at 7:32.
Mhm.
Is there a motion for that?
I move to conclude presentation at 7:32.
Is there,
Support.
okay. Is there any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I do that? Can I?
Go ahead.
Meaning, okay, so are you asking them to do a presentation for that long, or are you saying that means for your questions?
Just for
as
just for that long.
everything?
Yeah, just for that long.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah, I think Trustee King is, and they're correct, you guys been gone all day. If you present, because this is not gonna happen overnight. It's impossible to think we're gonna grab this overnight. Perfect, do the presentation. Trustee Luna gave us direction. We can write the questions down. We can also put these questions in the tracker.
And you know what? It may make sense to amend the original motion. Maybe we should say we can adjourn the meeting at 7:32.
There you go, with that. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if it's okay, Trustee Luna, since we had an open conversation, if there's some serious questions, can they put them on the, communication log? Or
Yeah, they can
something?
put it, I mean, whatever makes the most sense, you can email me, you can put them in the communication logs, but let's let them get through the
Okay.
presentation today. But
Okay.
is there, what's the motion again?
Yeah, for a 45-minute presentation to conclude at 7:32.
It's up to them.
All right, so there's been a motion and it's been a second to end. It was seconded by President McNeil. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I have to leave.
Yeah, that's fine. If you have any questions, can we get, Ms. Beard, can we send Ms. Rutherford the presentation and email? Thank you. All right, seeing no discussion, roll call. Secretary Perkins?
Yes.
I don't see Secretary Booth. Vice President McIntyre?
Yes.
President McNeil?
Yes.
Myself, yes. And Trustee King?
Yes.
We have 5 yes, 0 no. So we'll conclude at 7:32. Let's turn the floor to Mr. Jones and his team.
So if you will, ladies, go ahead and get started and just go through what you've been asked to do. You've heard the board, so you're not going to go intense into some of the things that we can possibly do the next time we come together. Announcement.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Ms. Templeton to get us started and Dr. Coleman to continue.
Good evening, board. So the request,
Your mic.
oh, sorry
Thank
about
you.
that. The request was for us to bring to the board, the fiscal year 27 consolidated application to review. And so we are diligently working with the grants team to complete our application. We are not fully complete this evening. The team, actually, kudos to our grants team. They are still in the office this evening working on it for us. But what we brought you tonight is an example of one of the elementary buildings and one of the secondary buildings. Because that really gives an outline of most of the things in the budgets we're gonna see in both of them. So we have brought you that. We have provided a link in the PowerPoint. There's a link in the electronic PowerPoint that will take you to a folder that has a copy of the entire fiscal year 26 application, broken out by building and then district-wide. And we have provided the district-wide budget for fiscal year 27, and we're still compiling and finalizing, working with the buildings, tweaking the numbers, making sure everything aligns. We've accounted for all of the licenses, all of the staff, and really comparing that. One thing that I want to share is that we are on track to submit our consolidated app on time without having to ask for an extension. We are super excited by that. The state has provided great mentorship to us through this process. So we're really looking forward to that. So we will get started with our PowerPoint.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
So tonight's purpose is just to provide a clear picture of the consolidated application process, explain the purpose of each one of the grant funding sources, and then outline the guidelines for the approval of our federal award.
So we want to begin by going through the grant application process. This is the process that we implement across the district in order for schools and departments to express their desires in utilizing grant funds. So first, the district receives grant allocation. We receive the dollar amount that we have been awarded from the funding source. For title, it is the federal government, which the federal government's grants are monitored through the state. So we work with our state consultants once we receive the grant allocation. From there, the business office sends the allocation amount to the grants office. The grants office communicates with the departments in order to let them know how much their allocation is going to be. And then in the schools, we provide an allocation amount for the schools so that they're aware of what amount they are working with when it comes to developing their grant at the beginning of the year. From there, the school teams are required by federal law to meet. There needs to be a representative from the families in the school community in order to provide advocacy for how those funds will be used. And so the school team, along with the family representative, meets to talk about the needs in the building. This is also informed by the school's data. So once the schools look at their data and their community needs, they develop a budget plan. They meet and develop that budget plan, and they share it with the families. They share it with the school community. And then once it's signed off on, then they submit that to the grants office. Once we receive the grant budget plan from the schools and departments, the grants office reviews those budget plans. We review those plans to see if what is in the budget plan is allowable, reasonable, necessary, and allocable according to the guidelines that are presented by that particular grant. Each of the grants, and we'll talk about that in a moment, has a different specific use. And so it's our responsibility to ensure that the items that are in the grant are allowable, reasonable, necessary, and allocable. Once we approve the items according to the grant guidelines, then we submit the grant budget and the line items for the grants to the state. They are our monitoring source for local and federal grants for approval. The state reviews and approves, or they may send the grant back to us with modifications, questions about the items, the amounts, questions about whether or not what we're utilizing is allowable, reasonable, necessary. We then have to modify the grant based on the feedback that we get from the state, and then we submit again, hopefully not too many times. And then we're able to have approval, and that moves us forward into being able to spend. Next slide. So now I want to talk a little bit about the different title and federal grants. So this slide, this is where the hyperlink that Ms. Templeton was talking about. That Title I federal entitlement funding, that's the link. So when you get the PowerPoint, you'll be able to click on that link, and our 27 grant, as well as our 26 full grant, our 27 district grant, as well as the full grant for 26 will be found in that link. So we have the following title grants. and they're used in the following ways. Title I is the one that we hear mentioned the most. Title I supports students' achievement, and particularly those students who are identified as most at risk for not meeting academic standards. Title I funds are intended to provide supports in the way of academic and social intervention for scholars to assist schools with meeting their needs and moving them forward towards academic success. Title II is our grant that we use to provide professional development to our staff and to provide coaching, any kind of specific assistance that we're needing to give our staff in order to help them to support our scholars who are at risk, most at risk of not meeting academic standards. Title III, which we were not allocated this year because the federal government has not released those funds, but Title III is intended to support English language learners. We are already required to provide supports to English language learners, so Title III is really a smaller grant intended to just bolster those supports. And then finally, Title IV. Title IV is used to support students, academic enrichment, and safe and healthy school environments. So you may see safety coordinators or attendance efforts or healthy breakfasts in Title IV. These are uses that have been outlined by the federal law, and these are the guardrails that we're given to let us know how we are able to use these funds. Next slide. So when we think about the decisions that we're making with our title budgets, we have to ask ourselves the following questions. Number one, what data is supporting this need? So when schools come to us with wishes, things that they would like to include, or departments in their title budget, we have to ask about the data. What is driving the decision that you're making to include these items? And how is this intervention going to move the students forward academically? When we have these conversations, this is in alignment with the work that we're going to be doing with the curriculum audit, as well as our program evaluations. And so with those, along with our new grant review process, we're able to really engage with schools and the things that they're putting in their title budget to ensure there's direct alignment between the funds that we're spending and the progress that we're making academically. Are we using those funds appropriately and efficiently? So we've been talking about utilizing our grant dollars. We know that historically we have not spent down our funds. And so we are very serious, Danielle and I, about developing systems that will help us to be able to utilize our funds and spend down our funds. And finally, are the investments producing measurable results for students? We are in great conversation. Board, you have shared with us your interest in ensuring that we're using data and our data is helping us to produce measurable results for students. And so we want to tie the grants into that conversation and ensure that our grants are helping us, the purchases that we are making are helping us to produce measurable results for students. So here are some of the things that are included in the grant. Yep.
So the allowable sources for grant expenditure areas, we have personnel. So you'll see in the budgets that we are paying for personnel. Professional learning, that is the majority of our professional learning is being tied into our Title II funding. Student services, offering enrichment, intervention, attendance and behavior. So our behavior specialist, the new coordinator of culture and climate, that one really gets me. Coordinator of culture and climate, our attendance task force. So all of those areas where we're really focusing on student services, contracts with vendors that are providing services to us, consultants that are coming in and providing training for our staff, instruction, really focusing on the instruction model, those things that are for intense intervention with our students. Technology are 2-to-1. They help pay for the students to have devices. There's a portion of our funding that is required to be set aside for family engagement. we see the benefit and the importance of that family engagement. So typically our line item for the family engagement is a triple of what is required to make sure we're providing those parent advisory committee meetings at each building. So that's what that family engagement piece is. And then really looking at what equipment is eligible to be purchased with grant funds and making sure that our scholars have all of the resources that they need. Next slide.
In addition to considering spending and being intentional about writing our grants, we also have to be intentional about ensuring grant compliance. So there are certain things that are necessary for us to monitor our grant spending and our grant usage. And so there are 8 things that we consider when we are looking at grant compliance. The first is whether or not the item that we're purchasing is allowable, reasonable, necessary, and allocable. And so an example of this is recently we were writing in the grant for teachers to go to a professional development. And when we were writing in the professional development, there was a portion of that budget line for hotel. And so we were working with the state on that particular line, and we were asking questions about whether or not the nightly rate for the hotel was a reasonable cost. And so these are the kind of conversations that we have with the state regarding the lines that we write to ensure that the costs of the items in the line are reasonable and necessary. Next, we look at federal and state procurement requirements. So the purchase order process, going through that purchase order process, ensuring that we are following the limits and the requirements for spending limits. There are certain steps that we have here in our district, and then there are federal steps that are required in terms of the amounts of line items. And so we have to follow both our district requirements and our federal and state requirements for the procurement process. Number 3, time and effort personnel documentation. So when we fund staff members out of grants, we have to be able to document the time that they're working and the work that they're doing and tie it back to the line item on the grant. So we have to ensure that our staff members who are being paid out of grants, their work is in alignment with the amount of time that we've paid them out of that grant. That's our time and effort reportings. And so we have documentation, a process in place, and are continuing to refine that process, Danielle and I, as we're coming into this role, to ensure that our documentation is in alignment with the grant and how our positions are written in the grant. 4, supporting documentation and records retention. That is why we appreciate you for giving us the grants specialist position, because that's going to be something that she does to assist us with maintaining documents, ensuring that we are keeping the records from the time and effort, and keeping track and monitoring the spending of the grants. Equipment inventory and controls, you'll see line items in those grants that support equipment inventory software that allows us to keep track with the things that we purchase in the grant. That is required by the state and the federal government for the use of these funds. We must ensure that when we are writing things in the grant that are new, we cannot purchase them until we have prior approval. So we have to go through the state's process for getting prior approvals for items, as well as making amendments to our grants if we want to make changes to it. There's a process by the state that facilitated by the state for us to be able to do those things. Number 7, monitoring audit readiness and corrective action. So we are on a consistent process of monitoring these grants. We must always be prepared to participate in an audit. And then if there are any findings in our audits, we are responsible for facilitating what is required of us and the corrective actions that follow if there are any findings in those grants. And then finally, we must always be mindful of supplanting versus supplementing. And that simply means that if something is being paid for out of the general fund, we are not able to pay for it out of the grant at a later time. So we have to be mindful that we are not replacing general fund expenses with grant dollars. Any questions?
Yeah, we'll pause for a second and then we'll do a round of questions and then you can go ahead. But I will say at 7:27 there'll be an alarm to give you a 5-minute warning, just so you know. But go ahead.
So I like the information you gave, and it's a term I want to use. When you guys are speaking, you're here, but keep in mind that we as board members, some of us have this knowledge, and that's one of the purpose. You know, like, okay, is this a Title One? I'm looking at like Southwestern. So how would, if you can make it clear, like I just know, like, hey, this is Title One, because you guys are the expert, and we don't want to spend a lot of time and wasting time in public. So if you can say, hey, this is Title One, this is coming out. I don't know if y'all got different grants that you get, but when you say this is from grant, we don't know. We just keep saying the word grant. I think if we started using the language when you're speaking to us, some of us is expert, you don't need this. But keep in mind, all of us have different levels of experience and knowledge. And if it, I would like to see more like, you know what I'm trying to say is to identify it. So I know that this is coming out of Title One. I done heard this before. And I think that would help my board members, from my understanding, that would help us understand what you are talking about. And I think we'll be, and another thing, how do we, you guys, and we go, well, we might make statement, the kids are failing and we spending this money on this here grant. How do you guys measure when it's enough is enough on a, I hope this is a good question. How do we, because you know, we always asking that question. So it help us to understand the board, you know, help us to understand like, okay, we hear that the kids' grades are here, but we still using this particular program. So help us know how you measure that, so we don't make decisions that say, hey, I don't see no success in here and I'm just gonna vote this off. So how could you help us understand that, particularly for those board members that don't have that experience?
Dr. McNeil, it is time for us to do program evaluation right now.
Okay.
We have a curriculum that we use that is supposed to be used across the entire district. And so we have two things happening. One, I have been working with the Office of Academics to ensure that there's fidelity of implementation of our curriculum across the district, so that every classroom is facilitating the curriculum, so that when we get that data, we understand what's happening in those classrooms. And then two, the instructional tools that we purchase with Title I, each of them will provide for us a report on what's happening in those apps and in that software. And from there, we as the Office of Academics, that's why Superintendent Jones decided to bring me into the grants conversation, because this is for the first time we have someone from academics looking at the grants and looking at what's going in the grants. And so his vision that we're executing within the last 4 months is really looking at what goes in here so that we can see what's happening with these items that we're purchasing. And then from there, we make decisions on what goes in and what needs to come out.
And you let the board know, you know, your evaluation.
Yes.
You kind of bring that to the board. How often do you guys do program evaluation?
We are embarking upon one right now as we speak.
Right.
But to my knowledge, and we just had this conversation with the academics team, I would say within the last 7 years, there hasn't been one.
Any more questions? Secretary Perkins.
So I heard you talk about professional development, and so your team monitors that. How do you choose the teachers that are going off site?
When principals in schools write their professional development into their grant, it is the principal, typically, and the school improvement coordinator who decides who from the school will go to attend that professional development.
And when you talk about curriculum and it being the same across the board, who determines that?
That is the Office of Academics, the Director of Academics, and the curriculum specialists, the humanities curriculum specialist, and the STEM curriculum specialist.
And let me add, can I add to that?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, can I add?
Yeah.
The vision the what comes from the board to say, here's the goals we want you to reach, superintendent. And then the vision that we set out is like today, and you heard it. Everyone needs to be doing the same thing. No one school should be determining what they're going to use a different curriculum than what the district has decided. And that's why that statement was made at the opening today, is because if we're going to reach these goals, 19%, right, growth, we're going to have to all do the same thing. And if anyone is doing something different than that, that's why this team is put together the way it is.
Well, I'm
You
glad.
have the procurement side, the money side, and then you have the programming side to make sure that they both align. And right now, we're turning that ship because you can't be doing your own thing as a school. We need to all work together as a district.
And
So
that's
just
why
wanted to
I
add.
asked the question, because I know for a fact that hadn't been done in our high school. I know that for a fact. And although we approved a certain curriculum, it wasn't being taught. And that's why I asked the question. So I would definitely like for you to look into it. Also, what grant pays for the offsite
The
for the professional development?
offsite professional development,
Mm-hmm.
they can be paid for out of Title I or Title II
Okay.
and Title IV.
Title IV will pay, we usually put the McCall conference.
Oh, yes, the
into
technology
Title-
based.
The technology.
It just
based.
depends on what it is.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so you track, after they come back from the offsite, you track the school, that's any of the schools for running the right program across the board?
There is a requirement for those who go out and receive professional development, for that professional development to make it back into the schools to be implemented. Now, I coming into this seat, it is my plan to ensure that whenever we send people out for professional development, that we see it in the schools.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay. You all set?
Yes.
Vice President McIntyre?
So I'm still confused about the measurement. What are you measuring?
When you say measurement of the outcomes
Mhm.
based on the grant usage. So that is an area that definitely needs some intentionality. We are measuring the use, the implementation of the grant, the implementation of the items that are purchased in the grant, and we're measuring, we want to tie the things that we purchase back to our student data. That is the essentially
Which student data?
the title funds is measured by, well, we use NWEA as progress monitoring, and then we use M-STEP data as our formative assessment for the district.
So you're talking about academic curriculum
Yes,
that you're purchasing? What about the other aspects of the grant?
the Title I,
Any of it?
well, we would look at discipline data, we would look at attendance data, we will look at our academic achievement data. Yes.
Can I help? Can I add?
Thank
I want to add, not,
Sure.
maybe it's not helpful. Okay. How are you evaluating if a computer needs to be purchased, or headphones? Like how was that evaluated?
That is, we have a technology person that helps us to be able to look at the length of time that we've purchased the computers. There's sometimes software needs to be updated, and she is aware and abreast through our inventory system of when technology needs to be updated, or if items have been dispositioned because of damage. So once we get to a place, a threshold where new items need to be ordered, our technology specialist helps us to be able to identify that.
So my point is though, I'm asking about measurement. I'm asking about outcomes. Where is the measurement between equipment needed and saying, I know, for example, why you want 2-to-1. I know the reports, I know the data, I know the results that it can, it increases attendance, it increases test scores. So, I mean, I get that, but so in each grant or a portion of a grant that you write, there has to be like some way that you're going to measure it. When, like, when is that reported to the board? I don't see a lot of measurement going on. I see, like, for example, with capturing kids' hearts, the data that we were given was that this is how many times somebody logged into the program. So there's not a correlation between student achievement and the program. There's someone turned their machine on, right? So that's what and I don't expect you to be able to answer like every like here, this grant, but that's what I would like to see. So, and more specifically, because I know this is grant compliance, right? So this is what we have to do. This is the bare minimum. But especially if we're going to try to achieve 19%, I would like to see, and working in tandem with reevaluating our strategic plan, I would like to see how this fits into the strategic plan. Like, so how, here's a grant, here's what we're hoping to achieve, here's what kind of student outcomes, test scores, increased attendance, what have you, whatever the result is. And then how is it linked to the strategic plan? How is it in the overall picture of the district moving it? I would like to see everything like integrated and interrelated. So this is helping this, which is, so it might not necessarily be, I mean, you might have to do like a regression analysis because there's not going to be indicator, you know, here's the direct result. There might be intervening variables and things like that. So I would just like to see the systemic integration of the whole thing. And because we need to do the strategic plan, we need to update it. I would like us to be thinking about that and updating it at the same time. Like, we don't have to like evaluate it and then come up with the results and then start doing a strategic. It's got to be something that has to be like dialectical, that's feeding into it itself and continuing to evolve, because we just have to think on it too.
And trustee, you asked and answered. You kind of said things that I was going to say to you, but you said it. So I think there's some things we know we need to use for kids, and we need to get in order to do the work we need to do. So some things in the grants are, like you just said, are not things you're probably going to be able to kind of measure, but those are items you need to do the work.
But can we explain why? Like, so that the community knows?
Right. Why we need computers.
Why do we need-
right? Like why we need computers, why we need headphones, why do we need to get smart boards? Why do we need to, because some of those things may not get us to academic.
Right, and why do we need
growth
to
or
like put a
success.
moratorium on phones? You know, what does that have to do with learning outcomes? So like, if we're taking away the student phones and we're not integrating that with the curriculum, do you know what I mean? Like, here's the curriculum we're deciding to use. We're not gonna be using personal devices because of this study or this. This is what the district has chosen. This is part of our strategic plan and our goals, right? And we're teaching AI competency this way, not, you know, because there might be some people are like, well, if, you know, they don't know how to use their phones and what, so like just having it more intentional and communicated, I guess, to the board as well as to the parents, to the public. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I just
Thank
have
you.
maybe one quick comment. As you have these different grants and the items you purchase and PDs and the different resources you all use, maybe tell us more about the different formative assessments you use and how it's tied to those individual, like the iPads, for example, or the laptops. That could probably be helpful.
Yes, so the NWEA is an assessment that we take online now. It used to be a paper and pencil test, but now we take it online. And there's an app that we use for the NWEA. So the class sets of Chromebooks are used for that. iPads, our early elementary students take the DIBELS assessment on the iPads in the classroom. And then, of course, our apps that we use to extend learning from our core content areas The scholars are able to access those at home on their Chromebooks. So, and our Schoology is the website that teachers use to deliver instruction outside of school. Let's say if a scholar has been suspended, then the teacher can facilitate instruction for that scholar on the Chromebook at home. So we have some applications that we use within the school day that are very much embedded into our daily instruction. And then there are applications that the scholars use at home, and the parents utilize that as a tool to extend learning when they're at home. Sometimes scholars elect to do it on their own at home. And so those are the ways, just a few of the ways that we use those technologies.
Thank you. Trustee King, you had a question?
Yes, Ms. Templeton, when's the deadline to submit the consolidated application?
We will be submitting tomorrow.
We submitting tomorrow. Okay. Second piece is here. Your PowerPoint on, whereas explains each title section from Title I to Title IV. You said there's a hyperlink in that there's a hyperlink in this slide.
At the top, the Title I and
Okay,
federal
so one
entitlement funding.
Okay, one thing I would encourage for our probably next session is for you to walk through what that title link is where everyone's learning. It's one thing to put a link on there, but it's the other thing to walk us through. So when we click on it, we know how to understand it and read it, and so it doesn't appear as we can say we have the information, but if we don't comprehend it, it'd be a different conversation. Could you help me? Your PowerPoint slide where it talks about grant expenditure areas, I would ask that we put a heading or which title goes to which one. Or are you saying each title, Title 1 through 4, these are the expenditure areas for each Title 1 through 4?
We do, each one of those grants has something from these expenditure areas that might fall into it. So it's allowable for all.
Okay. And so if we take in, for example, these two documents that you gave, right? Do you have a cheat sheet to understand these two documents?
Do we have a cheat sheet to
Yeah.
understand them?
Good question. We do. We have, the document is each of the descriptions are coded with a little all caps introduction. And those are our abbreviations that we use for the categories of the item. And we do have a list of those abbreviations that we can provide.
Yeah, here's what I would encourage, right? One of the things I've been asking is how admin communicates with board and how board communicates with admin. You both are experts at function codes and what all these good things are, right? We're not. And so when you present this information, it's like, here's the appearance, not saying that's what your intent is, but here's the appearance, who you are. Like basically you understand without any guidance in there, right? Something I would have anticipated is where in your PowerPoint slide, we would reference here how to walk through what that looks like. I'm sure we're short on time on what that looks like, but I would encourage even using AI to say, how do you explain this to a board member? I mean, if you want to put this in a graphical form to be helpful, because for example, for Eisenhower, you have 3 certified elementary teachers. The FTE is 0.63, so we pay basically 60% of their salary out of grant fund.
0.21 of each teacher.
Oh, okay, 0.21, so yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
we pay that, right? I think that's something to make sure we clarify what we pay staff out of for grants. So like somewhere like your slide that talks about the grant expenditure areas, explaining that for each grant, like what that looks like. So we don't have to come back to that conversation. I think that'll be helpful for digestion. Definitely, I'm willing to partner to see, what part 2 would look like for this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
President?
Right, thank you. These are good questions. We are in the midst of doing a handbook for new board members. I like your presentation and like to be able to implement this, especially with some of the ideas that Trustee King said, that would be good for new board members. So what we want to do is not slow down the process, speed it up, and we'll probably be getting back with you guys how we can implement this in part of our handbook. So they don't have to sit it for 3 years trying to get to this point. This should be trained right away. And here we are 3 years down the road for some getting to this point. So I really appreciate this. You think you haven't done none, but you really
gave us insight as we want to be more effective board members. And, also have newcoming board members come in so they can just pick up. And thank you and I love what trustee said, we can break that down, trustee, and put it in like a handbook type, some kind of way we fix it into the handbook. That's all I got to say. You did a great job.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Yeah, and I would say thank you first of all, and thank you for the questions, because I think that was very helpful. And you asked a really good one about making sure that we understand title in each one of them, and also understanding what are you paying out of each one in terms that the board members can see it. But what I would ask board is if they could get through the work they need to do with MDE, which although that you are turning it in tomorrow, doesn't mean you're not going to go back and forth with MDE. If we can get through the consolidated application, then we can start formulating what the board how the board wants to see the next portion of this. But I want them to be able to get through so we don't slow down the process of schools getting the things that they have asked for.
And that's definitely, this is an eye opener for board members. We're working on something in September. Hopefully you guys got a little 3 minutes, for us by September 11th or 12th, I think. Just to give us an idea, put it in the blueprint, but you think that we should know as board members, and we need to know what you know as well. All of us need to be on the same page.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's just a 5-minute mark. We got 5 minutes left. Go ahead.
Okay, so I really appreciate that, and like Superintendent Jones said, you guys got to meet the deadline tomorrow, and even after tomorrow, we won't be bugging you anymore, but we just want to give you an idea of where we're looking at in the Woodlands, and we're just students, and we need to teach you to help us, okay? I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Board
Trustee
President.
Luna,
Please
I'd
go ahead.
just like to say thanks for breaking down the budget by schools. That helped me a lot. I mean, you're spending, like Southwestern, we know they're gonna have quite more expense than the elementary school. But this is really nicely laid out, and thanks for your time and effort.
Any more questions? Are you all set? All right, we'll see no more questions. I'll conclude this meeting and adjourn at 7:28 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, you joined. Yeah.
All right, sweet.
Yes, we done.